All right, I think I'm ready.
Great.
Welcome back.
I'm ready to just hang it up for the day already.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I've had a cold for like, I don't know, a cold for, I don't know, it feels like fucking forever. But like I feel good. Now I just got all this phlegm and stuff in my throat. But like everything else like feels good. The sore throat's gone. The cough is gone for the most part. Every now and then it kind of pops up, but is what it is. Welcome back to one of the longest running weekly cult movie review podcasts on the internet. I'm sure we're not the oldest. I know we're definitely the oldest that has continuously put out content each and every week.
I would say we're the oldest non-professional.
No, I mean, I think we're probably older than most of the professional ones.
Yeah, but we can't say we're older than all of them.
But
so I don't know of any amateur produced stuff. But I don't know everything.
No, I mean, I know the podcast cats have been around longer than us, but I know they take time off. Bloody Good Horror has been around longer than us. I think they take time off from time to time, but they also have like a rotating cast of people that are hosting, so not everybody's on every show. But they've been around longer than us. There's probably a few more that I'm not thinking of, but I can't think of any that like have consistently had an output of each and every week. So I'll stand on that high horse. Last week was our 15th anniversary, rolling into our 15th year. Season 15, year 15 of OTC.
Yeah.
I want to thank everyone for their kind words on social media and other places where we got wow, okay.
I was just adding my 2 cents to that sentiment.
All right. Way to shit all over our friends, but that's fine.
Hey, you've been doing it for 15 years. I don't get to do it once.
Never. It's my thing. But yeah, we got a bunch of stuff on Facebook and stuff, and people giving us congratulations. Thank you guys very much. Thank you to our continued Patreons. We've picked up some new people the last few weeks. Chris and I actually, since we were in the studio together last week, we discussed what we're going to do for some like Patreon content, and we are going to do some commentary shows. So I will say now, if you are a Patreon member, send us some suggestions for commentaries. I can't promise that we will get to everything, because I suspect us recording commentaries is going to be a little bit more difficult than trying to do reviews and stuff like that. But if you are a member of our Patreon at patreon.com/outsidethecinema, send us a message through there. You can send us an email. Just send it through Patreon. It'll probably be easier, so we know what's where. For some commentary suggestions, we'll also we'll reopen the the requests for featured reviews too for our Patreon members. But if you're not a Patreon member, trust me, it's worth it. The show archive alone is worth it. You get all of our old episodes. I mean, this is episode 781 of the regular episode. Add in 2 years of live shows, music shows, all that. It's all there. Thousands and thousands of hours of content. Probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. It's a lot of content, and it's all there on the show archive. And then also we put a lot of the exclusive stuff that goes up on Patreon. It only goes on to Patreon. So all of the music shows that we do from this point on are exclusive to Patreon. And then all of the commentary shows that we will be doing will be exclusive to Patreon. So yeah, sign up. $5 a month. Get you all of that.
Yeah. And if you're going to suggest movies for commentary, definitely don't pick Groom Lake or that other one, because those are already on the list.
Yes. Yeah, 9 Deaths of the
Don't
Ninja
waste your
Groom
pick
Lake
on something we're doing.
Yeah, or you can just be like, yeah, please definitely do that.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with.
But don't waste your shot on.
And also, don't suggest something stupid that we need something that we're going to be able to entertain you with. Like, I can't think of anything offhand, but if you were like, hey, do a commentary on Avengers Endgame, I don't think you guys will enjoy that.
But we could do a commentary on This Place Rules or The Search for QAnon or something where we can get a good grasp on stuff. Otherwise, it's just Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah.
With unprepared jokes.
Yes. I personally like to have a nice mix of things. We can have legitimate film conversation while also making stupid jokes. But we don't plan them out ahead. Unlike, Riff Track or any of those guys, they obviously write all their jokes ahead of time. We don't, when we do them, it's live. There's no preparation. There's none of that.
Yeah, we're not professionals.
Nope.
In that.
We're the most professional amateurs you'll ever meet.
Here's how unprepared we are. So I don't know. Did I tell you the story? I happened across the Black Roses commentary.
Oh.
So I watched a little of it and I skipped into it.
It's on YouTube, right?
And yeah. And I skipped ahead and one scene the kid says he's going to paint the town red. And then 2 scenes later, he's got a bucket of paint. And I'm like, oh, look, he actually brought paint. And then I said on the commentary, well, good, he went and got paint. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not planned. That's just my reaction to things. So that's kind of how, that's how our commentaries evolved.
Yes. We like to be the funny, normal people.
Yeah.
So
we don't succeed in that at all.
We like to be. I didn't say we did it. So
true.
This week on the show, getting back to our normal kind of format for a little while, we will be covering 2 flicks. One is a certified cult classic, and the other is becoming a cult classic. So this week we are going to be covering My Bloody Valentine, 1981, the original version. One of the more overlooked. I mean, I guess it's not really overlooked. To say that it's overlooked is probably not fair because they did do a big budget remake of it. But it's not necessarily like one of the more. What are you filing your nails?
No, I was seeing if you could pick up the noise of this.
Yes.
On this.
And well, the answer is yes, I could. Because I thought you were filing your nails.
Just to be sure, if I do this.
Yes.
It's bad for the show?
Yes, very bad.
Shit, you learn something new every time you do a show.
Man, well, maybe not every time. Most times. What the hell was I saying? Certified cult classic, My Bloody Valentine. To say that it's an overlooked gem is probably not quite fair. This is not one that should show up on your top 10 horror movies that you've never seen because, like we said, it has a big budget remake that was actually pretty good as far as remakes go.
Unless you're writing for a magazine that's in pediatrician dentist's office for kids, this shouldn't be on a list of movies you've never heard of.
Right. But it's quite lower in the pantheon when people talk about slasher movies, I think. I don't think it ends up...
Which is strange.
It is strange because it's actually a pretty interesting little flick. So,
yeah.
And I was actually kind of surprised that we had never covered it. But we didn't. So the other film, I know we have talked about it at probably when it was released. It was one of the ones that I was looking at that I realized is now over 10 years old. And I keep seeing it pop up in different places of people being like, you know what? This film wasn't really given its due when it was first released. And people are kind of rediscovering it now. It's available on HBO Max. It did well, I think, upon its release and then disappeared pretty quickly. And I think a lot of people kind of overlooked it because of Meghan Fox's being the lead in it. But Jennifer's Body is the other film we're going to cover this week. And I'm actually looking forward to talking about it. I think it's a little more interesting than we probably gave it credit for when it was originally released. So that's what we're covering this week.
What year was that? I forget.
2009.
9. Oh, okay.
Yep. It was released, I think, when we started the show, if I'm not mistaken, or the year, or during our first year or something like that. When did we start? What's 22 minus?
2008.
2008. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so it was fairly new. And when we started the show in 2008, those first couple years was a real kind of explosion of remakes and horror films and genre cinema hitting mainstream. So there's a lot of that stuff that I'm actually kind of really looking forward to kind of starting to dig into now in the next year or two with shows because our general rule is 10 years older to take a look at. We obviously break that format multiple times throughout the year when we do suggestions and then when we start to do a cram for the new stuff. But in general, it's 10 years. And this is one of those ones.
We follow that rule until we don't want to.
Yeah, or until we fall behind and realize neither of us have watched anything from the current year.
Yeah.
But this is definitely one that I would have sworn isn't that old, and it is. So
Yeah.
there we go. My Jennifer's Body and My Bloody Valentine. All right. I've already checked the boxes. We've already mentioned the Patreon. I don't need to do it again. We want. Which one do you have a preference? Which one you want to start with?
Not really.
Not really?
No.
All right. I guess
each one's different enough.
All right, we can start with My Bloody Valentine then.
W-A-R-D-E-N, Harry Warden. He was committed under court order approximately 20 years ago.
Well, I'm afraid I have no records of a Harry Warden, past or present.
How can that be? He was committed there, under court order.
I'm sorry, I have no records on him. Look, in 20 years, any number of things could have happened. Now, if this Harry Warden was committed, as you say, then he's simply no longer here. And if I have no records on him, I have to assume that he's transferred, he's released, or he's on the slab. One of three, take your pick.
1 out of 3? Now, look, Mrs. Raleigh, you're going to have to do a little bit better than that. Now, I have to know what happened to this man, and I have to know what happened to him now. Now, have you checked everything?
Everything, except the microfilms over in Central File, and it will take several days to check that.
Look, I need answers, and I need them fast. I'll be waiting for your...
There you go. There's a nice clip from My Bloody Valentine. 19. Whoops, what's going on?
All right, Apple.
Settle down. Sorry. Oh, now I'm all caught, too. My headphones are caught. Man, I got through that so good at the beginning there, too.
That was really good, yeah.
All right, My Bloody Valentine, 1981, Canadian. It's a Canadian flick. From the time period of the golden days of slashers, your Friday the 13th were starting around this time. A couple years before Nightmare on Elm Street, but we'd had, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we'd had Halloween, we'd had Black Christmas. And this film is inherently super Canadian when you watch it, too. Definitely feels it when you watch it. It is directed by George Mahalika, based on a story concept by Stephen A. Miller. I don't know what else George worked on. I don't think he did a whole lot of other stuff. Let's see here. So let's take a look at this stuff he directed. Known for My Bloody Valentine. A lot of TV work here, I see.
Okay.
Galador.
Like procedural drama stuff?
Galador, Defender of the Outer Dimension. Undressed for MTV. Da Vinci's Inquest. Galador, take me away. Galador. Galidor.
Oh. Let's see what that is.
Probably Canadian.
Oh, it's from 2002.
Bullet to Beijing, Lonesome Dove, The Outlaw Years. So it looks like kind of maybe a director for hire. Some softcore stuff.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely.
Because you know what? This movie was, I think there's a looseness in horror films in the very late 70s, and like there's this, it's almost like a pinch of time. It's like 78 to 81 horror movies had this real DIY kind of homemade feel. Like, I don't know, Friday the 13th felt like a camp, like it was shot at a camp, so it feels like it. This is shot in a town and a mine, and it does so much more than the, we'll say, third Nightmare on Elm Street on and all of those, where it just feels, it feels like a movie. These felt, early slasher movies felt a little bit raw, a little bit like unsanded, I guess would be the best way.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There's still those rough edges. Like you watch like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I've always kind of said that is like the perfect example of that kind of grindhouse cult horror film aesthetic. It feels cheap, it looks cheap, but everything kind of checks the boxes in the way you want it to. Whether you like the film or not, it doesn't really necessarily matter, but it definitely checks those boxes. And kind of with the slasher film, as it kind of moved on a little bit more to your Friday the 13th and your Halloweens and things, those edges started to kind of clean up. But at this point, in 81, there's still some dirt.
Yeah.
You're not at that
like,
really slick feel that you get come like 1987.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just something about the first couple Fridays and this. They're like, really, you get the whole feel. Like you can feel what it's like to be in that situation. It's less fantasy.
Yeah.
Because it's in real places. So I don't know. It was just this abstract feeling I got from it, and then thinking about the early ones, I just can't describe it any better than that.
No, and I'm 100%.
But it's a good thing.
On board with you.
It's a good thing.
So the story of My Bloody Valentine, if you don't know, I feel like this is a film that most of our listeners have seen, and this is, I think, probably like my third or fourth time watching it all the way through. Decades old tale surrounding a deranged murderer killing those who celebrate Valentine's Day turns out to be a true legend when a group defies the killer's order and people start turning up dead. The brilliance in this film is in its simplicity. Mm-hmm. They don't overdo anything. We're given the story pretty early on. The story of Harry, who was one of the miners that was trapped in an explosion, and they didn't help him. They went on to have their Valentine's Day dance, and he was like, "You know what? You didn't help me, so now I'm gonna kill everybody." And that's it.
Yeah,
that's your backstory.
Right. The only problem with this movie that I have is that everything is pretty realistic. The kills are the most extreme thing in this because definitely they're done for shock value. Yep. Like, look, it's a real murder kind of thing. But the whole town absolutely would have felt the explosion and everything would have stopped.
Yeah.
That's the only issue I have because there have been a couple explosions around here in the last year, and they're not sure if it's on the Salem line or in the park, and they're not sure what is being detonated, but I feel it before I hear it, and we're talking 5 miles away. And that's above ground. So if this is an underground, that's going to shake the bedrock. So I just let that go because you have, and I felt strong enough to actually text you. That's some pretty good motivation for this character.
Absolutely.
You don't see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know the director, he had said in some different interviews and stuff that when they filmed at these real mines in Nova Scotia. And they found a town that was like old school, like rustic mining town. And they, set up shop there and made it as realistic as possible. So that whole idea of the underground explosion and it still paints a realism because you figure it's probably pretty sparsely grouped together. And if there's a point where they say they go 3 miles underground or something crazy like that.
Yeah,
maybe it's not quite that much, but they make it enough that you can split hairs if you want, but at the same time, it's pretty easy to accept it.
Yeah, it didn't break it for me because still the whole idea of you're killing the people, because the first thing this guy does in his backstory is kills the 2 supervisors that should have been there that were responsible for these people dying through their negligence. And I'm like, that's how you create, because I sympathized with the guy. I don't know if I could have held back.
Yeah.
If 6 guys I was with died and you guys are all out drinking, not you, obviously,
not me.
But you'd be dancing on the floor, throwing elbows. I know that.
Throw bows, throw them bows, throw them bones.
So I was on board with it. Even if it was just an accident, like a cave-in, and they didn't rescue them because the supervisor wasn't there, that would have been fine. Anything. This worked. It really did work. And the methane thing, it wasn't just a one and done. It was the constant thing they were talking about.
Yeah, continuously brought up.
That reinforces how dangerous it actually is. So there was a lot of thought put into this script to make it logical. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
So much so that I didn't really take notes. I just enjoyed this one.
Yeah, and it's it's your basic. You got a group of kids. You got a TJ. You got a Sarah. You got an Axel. You got a Howard and Patty. Like you got the group of teenagers. And you're given enough backstory. You know that TJ's the son of the mayor, and he decided to leave his girlfriend, and then he came back, and then the girlfriend's now going out with one of his friends, but she still kind of pines for him because of the way things ended. So you get that dichotomy between the boys, fighting over the girl, and and everyone else is there that is doing their part to help out, and then you got the friends. So like you get a decent amount of character on these kids pretty quickly. Just through smart writing. Yeah.
Yeah, they were really smart about how they spaced it out and got the police stuff is interspersed with the personal life stuff. And I thought it was a really, really good balance for what was, essentially just let's make some money. We have a script.
Right.
Right. This movie is so much better for so many different reasons than I thought it would have been.
And this film is definitely, I mean, it's pretty smart in the way that it runs itself, because you have your classic evil, your backstory of him coming back, and then him going to jail, him being convicted and sent to the mental asylum and forgotten about. And just like, I mean, I can't tell you how many movies we've seen since then where, like, they didn't celebrate Valentine's Day for a very long time because of it. And then they decide that this year they're going to celebrate it. And
it's been 20 years. They're like, we're probably good.
None of the kids know really a whole lot about this. They know it's become that, that.
It was before they were born, right? They're high school kids?
They're supposed to.
No, they're working in the mine.
Yes, but they're young adults. They're young adults that were too young to remember.
Too young to take this seriously. Yeah. Yeah. Why are you talking? I still didn't fix my watch to stop talking to me.
Told you. So the kids are setting up the dance. You've got the mayor. You got the mayor. You got the police chief. You have the nice lady that runs the laundromat that's helping get everything squared away. And these kids, you can tell they live in a small town. They don't have a whole lot going on. They all go to the mine to work, and then they get out of work and go to the one bar in town, and they all drink every single night. And it's just having this Valentine's Day dance is a big deal to them because they don't have anything else going on. Their life is boring.
Yeah.
So it's
a Bruce Springsteen song.
I know, right?
Their life is a Bruce Springsteen song.
So even though the acting isn't necessarily super sharp, but the three leads that you get is essentially you have TJ and Axel. TJ's the one that left and came back. Axel is the one now dating what I guess with the third lead, would be Sarah. She's the girl. So you get their backstory. You know that she still likes him. So you know that that's going to cause a rift. And then when shit starts to hit the fan, some people get killed. The nice lady setting up the dance gets killed. The mayor and the sheriff immediately go into amity, mode of trying to cover everything up and not tell anybody anything. Trying to figure out where Harry is, what's going on. So you heard in the clip that we played, they call the sanitarium or the prison where he is, and they have no record of him. And they're like, well, listen, you need to tell us what's going on. And, the body count starts to pick up. Get more and more people are getting knocked off. And they do one of the most brilliant things in this movie is the way that it is paced. I think I read somewhere that it's between 7 and 10 minutes between each murder until it gets going, which something like that. Don't quote me on that, but
it seems so much longer than that, but it works really well.
Because it's paced. There's no point where you're waiting for something to happen. You know what I mean? There's no point where it slows down so much that you're like, what the hell is going on? Why do we not have anything? But there's and then also,
why is Shatner in the alien suit now?
Right.
Yeah.
Why is he flying? There's there's some questionable stuff that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. At the beginning, there's the guy when he's in the suit, and he's going to have sex with the girl in the mine. That doesn't really make any sense. But other than that,
no, but it's a good opener,
for sure.
Right? Because of the heart tattoo and so that's but it's a good look because it could be anybody. That's the great part, is wearing that outfit. It's iconic in a silhouette. You got the light that blinds the person on your head. So it's just, it's standard gear, but it's very well thought out.
Yeah. So in the story, like, again, it's so simple. They cancel the dance because the woman's been killed, and they're like, listen, we can't go on with this stuff. So they tell the kids, they're like, hey, listen, no parties, no nothing. You guys got to just, go home after work or whatever, stay and because kids are going to kid, teenagers are going to teenage. Fuck that. We're going to have a party.
Yeah.
And where's the worst possible place for them to have the party, Chris?
In the killer's lair.
Killer's lair of the mind. But I mean, they're like, it makes complete sense because TJ's like, well, we could have the party at the mine because we have everything we need there.
Yeah.
And it plays into the smart writing of, like, if the police chief and the mayor had just shared the information to be like, hey, there's a killer on the loose. We think Harry Kane or whatever his name is might be loose. You guys got to stay home. But they hide it from them, and they literally go right into the belly of the beast because they weren't told the information. It's really smart writing in, like again, the simplest way possible.
Yeah, I actually need to go back and rewatch it because there's some things I need to look out for the second time around that I would not have noticed watching it the first time. So this is definitely, like, once the movie's over, you're like, oh, I got your movie. Okay. And then you're like, let's see how smart you are with that. So that's what I want to do. There's certain key scenes I need to watch again.
For sure. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about this. It's so simple, but it's done really, really well. Everything plays off the way it's supposed to. You get a twist and a turn where you need it. You've got enough background.
Actually, there's more than one. Yeah. More than one twist and turn and surprise in this, which really was smartly done too, because the first reveal, you're like, what? And then you're super invested because you missed something.
Right. You can figure it out if you're paying attention. It's not the most.
I wasn't.
I don't remember because it's been a real, like, the first time I saw this was a long time ago, so I don't remember if I had it figured out or not. But like, it is very much like everything you want in a slasher from this time period, because you have a menacing killer in a great costume. The breathing sound through the gas mask with the apparatus on it, like, is certifiably, like, perfect for the setting, because
and it wasn't overdone.
And the idea that, like, you hear that heavy breathing in the mine, like, it's scary as shit, man. The murders are pretty intense when they happen. I know that there's supposedly an uncut version of this that we didn't watch. This was a very heavily censored movie upon its release. And I believe that they released an uncut version of it a few years ago. This was not the uncut version. This is the version that was streaming on HBO Max. So there's definitely some things going out there, but that heavy breathing, and the look, you can't see his eyes because of the way the shading on the eyepieces is. And obviously, I mean, is there anything really more menacing than, like, a giant fucking pickaxe?
That's true. Hey, I didn't watch the censored version. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
With the dryer in the laundromat,
Yes.
What did you see?
Just the head.
Nothing else?
I don't think so.
The dryer didn't turn on with the body hanging halfway out of it and flop around for a good 10 seconds?
No, it didn't.
All right. I watched a better version than you did.
All right, that's fair. I watched the version on HBO Max because that's what I had.
That's fair. There are some very disturbing murder scenes in this.
Well, I'll have to make sure I check that out then.
Impressed with the special effects as well.
Yeah, music's good. It's shot well. Just dirty enough, but not too dirty. I feel like we could probably grade this. All right, Chris, do you recommend, and what is your grade for My Bloody Valentine 1981?
Yeah, it's a 100% recommend. If you can find the unrated, do that, because it sounds like Bill's copy was boring.
I don't know if I'd say boring.
Well, Watch the unrated one and then see. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give this. Actually, I'm gonna give it an A-. I think this is a shining example of what a smart slasher could be.
Yeah,
and that's it. I'm just gonna stop right there.
And it's sometimes the best movies. You just don't need to say a lot about them. I agree.
Yeah.
This is a high recommend. If you're a slasher movie fan and you haven't watched this one yet, definitely remedy that. It being Valentine's Day month and all.
That's true.
Which is why we did it now. But
okay.
So it's really good. It's well written. It's smartly written. Shot well. Music works. So Canadian. But it all works. It holds up against any of those heavy hitters, whether you're talking Halloween or Friday the 13th. It definitely stands up against them. If you were to make a top 10 slashers list, this is probably going to end up on it. At least it should. So I will give it. I'll give it an A- too, man. This is a really solid flick. And I've seen it a number of times, but I was very happy to go and revisit it again. It'd been a few years since I'd seen it. I think I watched it when the remake came out.
Okay.
But I don't think I've revisited it since then. But it's on HBO Max, but apparently it's the rated version. So I don't know if the unrated one is streaming anywhere. I didn't check further than the fact that it was on HBO Max. So
yeah.
So yeah, two recommends, 2 A-. Check it out. Okay, let's move on to 2009, Jennifer's Body, a very divisive film directed by Karen Kusama and written by Diablo Cody, who tends to get quite a bit of hate just in general. But this is definitely a film of the time period, I would say. Young, hot stars, Meghan Fox, Amanda Seyfried, Adam Brody, all taking part in this. I do have a trailer. I'm just waiting for it to load, which is why I am continuing to talk for a couple seconds and then say, hey, yeah, well, you know what? Let's just take a listen to the trailer.
You and me are going out tonight. Wear something cute, okay?
You always do what Jennifer tells you to do.
It's just that I like the same things that she likes.
Hey, Jennifer. You look really pretty.
Why don't you just come by my place? Well, this is random.
This isn't really your house, is it?
We can play mommy and daddy.
No way.
We always share your bed when we have slumber parties. Jennifer's evil.
I know.
No, I mean, she's actually evil. Not high school evil. Chip is looking really cute to me lately. How is he tasting these days? You are never a good friend. You could have anybody that you want. Why Chip? You're killing people. No, I'm killing boys. Are you scared? You only murder boys. I go both ways. I will finish you if I have to. Okay. You can barely finish gym class.
All right. Jennifer's Body, 2009. Such a 2009 movie too, right? Of the time. Starring Meghan Fox, Amanda Seyfried, Adam Brody, Johnny Simmons, and others. I think this movie was not taken seriously upon its release because it starred Meghan Fox, and it was kind of post Meghan Fox kind of working her way out of the Transformers series. She kind of became known as a real pain in the fucking ass to have on set.
Yeah, she was a kid and ran her mouth and paid the price.
Yeah, and what's interesting is she's kind of had a resurgence the last couple of years, showing up in some more stuff. And it's like crazy to think that like she's only like in her like early 30s or like mid 30s still, like, which is insane. But Amanda Seyfried has actually had a fucking incredible career post this.
Yeah.
Most recently, she played Elizabeth Holmes in the Hulu series, The Dropout, which is about what the hell is the name of the company?
Theranos.
And she's fucking excellent in that, and she's been in a ton of things. That trailer doesn't really give you any like story. Like they just like, hey, Megan Fox is in a movie, and guess what? Boys think she's hot, so we're gonna just bring that out. But actually, the story in this is very much like a very classic, again, simple story. You have Jennifer, who is the hot, popular girl at the high school in a small town of what the hell is it? Like what the hell's the name of the town? Like something Bluffs or like.
Oh, it was the Devil's Crotchful or Satan's
like Devil's
Cauldron
Taint or like. And Amanda Seyfried is Jennifer's best friend, but she's like.
It was named after that hole.
Yeah, Devil's pucker spot.
Hole. Devil's Hole.
Devil's Hole. Sure, that works.
Boys Hole.
Troll. Play the troll toll. Amanda Seyfried plays Needy. She is I guess the unpopular best friend of Jennifer, which doesn't really make a lot of sense in high school lore because, like, if Jennifer's the popular girl, her friends are the popular girls too. So, but whatever.
Yeah. Or they've stopped talking to the. Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
So the two of them are best friends. You have Chip, who is Needy's boyfriend. Jennifer is like the arcing best friend that is just always telling people what to do and stuff. Everyone knows that girl. She's the hot popular girl. Everyone knows her. So there's a local indie rock band coming to town. Jennifer wants Needy to go see them play at the local bar. The band is like the most like generic indie rock band like going, and definitely done by design. Adam Brody plays Nikolai. He's the singer of the band. So Jennifer basically goes up to him and kind of like gives him the, hey, I'm the local hot girl and I want to sleep with the band. But the band has ulterior motives, don't they, Chris?
Yeah. This is the weakest part of the whole movie, I think.
It is. But it gets the story going. So basically the band wants to be popular. They want to be the biggest band in the world. So they basically practice black magic and the occult, and they have a spell where if they sacrifice a virgin, they will get all of the praise and love and popularity and money that they want. But Adam Brody misplays his deck, and they're like, there's no way that girl's a virgin. He's like, trust me, this is a small town. Because they talk about how, like, I don't understand why the band would play in a small town like this, and it's because they wanted to get the small town virgin. He's like, this is a small town. She's the girl that, like, talks a big game but has never slept with anyone. And then Needy overhears this and basically says, my friend that's my friend Jennifer you're talking about, and yeah, she's a virgin, and she deserves way better than you. But then we know that Jennifer's not a virgin because, like, they discuss it. And Jennifer's like, I haven't been a virgin since I was, like, 13 years old.
Yeah.
And so basically, they're playing the song, and Jennifer gets into a trance. All hell breaks loose, literally, and they great white the entire club to the ground, which I'm pretty sure was done. I think very purposely.
Because it was after.
Yeah, for sure. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, there was a fire at a club in Massachusetts. Many years ago, and the band Great White played, and that burned down, and a whole fucking bunch of people died, and it was like the worst. It was the worst.
Yeah.
But they use that in this. The club burns to the ground, but Nikolai is able to get out for whatever reason, and Needy and Jennifer get out, and he leads Jennifer to the van, and then Jennifer disappears for a little while, but not for long, right, Chris?
No, she's sitting in the van, and there are a lot of questionable choices. Like was she in a trance, or was she just drugged, or because like her face, it was just, she's a bad actress.
She's not a good actress.
I didn't know what was going on when she got in the van. What was going on with her face? Was she happy to be there? Was it supposed to be like a blank slate? Like
that's what I think. She was still entranced by them because she just goes with no like emotion, and when she gets in the car, there's no emotion, and then they drive off.
Yeah, and there's no difference between the behavior then and the behavior like in the beginning of the movie. Like,
right.
I don't know, is she different? What? I didn't get enough time with the character.
Right. So Needy goes home. She calls the boyfriend, and she's like, there was a fire. She's like, we're okay, but it's crazy. But then there's like a knock at the door. So she goes down to open the door. She opens the door. Nobody's there. But then Jennifer is in the house already. And so now we know she's covered in blood. She's all messed up. We're like, well, something bad happened. And she takes a chicken out of the fridge, eats the chicken, but then just throws up the most disgusting black goo everywhere.
Yep.
And then just leaves. And that's kind of the whole setup of the film.
Yeah, without a word.
Yeah, she just like takes off. Like, and poor Needy's there to like, and I like Amanda Seyfried a lot. Like,
yeah,
I was introduced to her on Veronica Mars, where she played the dead friend that kept coming back to Veronica Mars, and I've loved her since then. And like, she was in was she in the Linda Lovelace movie? Was she Lovelace?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, let me look that up here. She was in Mean Girls. That was kind of where people like got to know her first, probably.
Yeah.
I think she was Linda Lovelace, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I'm going to look it up, and I'm going to scroll, and everyone's going to listen to me. Well, yeah, Lovelace. Oh, she was in Les Mis, too. A movie that I've never seen, nor will I ever watch.
Nah, I don't want to.
No desire. Anyway, so Needy cleans up the mess. Is very sad because she's like, what the fuck is going on? Mm-hmm. And then she goes to school the next day, and we now know Jennifer is not right because we have seen everything. But Jennifer is acting perfectly normal the next morning, and she's like extra beautiful. Like they keep like showing, like making sure just how hot she's supposed to be. Like,
yeah, a lot of telling in this whole thing.
Yeah, a little too much, maybe just a little too much. I don't know. What
maybe
do you?
I mean, the main character's name is Needy. Like, what's her last name? Girl? Fucking come on.
Needy girl.
I just. Okay, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say. So they're back in school, but something's weird with her. And obviously the entire school is sad because a bunch of kids died at the concert, and she just can't be bothered by it though. And that's the first kind of real tell that there's something else going on with her, because like Needy is like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you sad? Like, like 13 kids we know died there. And she's like, yeah, but we didn't. And she's like, but that, no. So eventually we learn that Jennifer is become like a demon, or she's possessed, because skipping ahead, they tried to sacrifice her, but she wasn't a virgin. So therefore, the whole thing kind of backfired. They still got all their fame, but unfortunately, Megan Fox's character is now like an evil demon.
Yeah, they the dumbest part about this whole thing is they didn't even need the magic to do this. All they needed was the fire in the club, and then they write a song about it, and that was enough. That literally was all that happened to make them famous. So. Did the magic matter?
Right.
Is what I'm wondering.
Well, and the thing too is they keep bringing the band part of it back into it, and it really doesn't matter. Like they keep talking about the song, and then they play at the fucking prom, and they like continuously show them. And the thing that I thought was really interesting was they show up at the prom or the dance or whatever it is, and they play there. But there's no interaction with Jennifer at that point. Like, they're just there and they play.
Yeah.
Bizarre. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not to kind of ruin things, but this movie's thoroughly fine. Like,
yeah,
it's become. I understand now. I think why people, upon revisiting it, are like, this is better than we thought it was. Because I think it's better than I thought it was too. But Megan Fox is just not a good actress. So, like, and the fact that you kind of know that she's kind of a handful to deal with, too, like, makes her... And one of the reasons why she didn't really work a whole lot for a number of years is because she kind of blacklisted herself. It became very well known, and I don't know her, obviously, so, like, I mean...
Yeah.
It became very well known, though, that, like, she was a fucking pain in the ass, and she thought really highly of herself and basically thought her shit didn't stink. So she kind of just disappeared for a while because nobody wanted to fucking work with her. And then she started dating Machine Gun Kelly, and, like, all of a sudden she was back. So...
That's good, not because of her, but that was because of Kelly.
Definitely part of it. Like, I know I hadn't thought about Megan Fox in a number of years until... You started seeing Machine Gun Kelly, like she's in his videos and like, oh, you know, they're engaged or whatever. And they had some weird fucking bloodletting ceremony when they got engaged and wear like vials of each other's blood. And it's like, yeah, Tom and Pam did that years ago. So I'm really not. No, it wasn't. No, it was Marilyn Manson, I think, and Evan Rachel Wood were the ones where they wore vials of each other's. No, Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton. Yeah. They were the ones that wore the vials of each other's blood. Anyway, as I just went through so many Hollywood relationships that crumbled in a matter of like seconds, and they all ended poorly. And I'm sure the Machine Gun Kelly one probably will too.
Hell, it could be over now. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, me either.
No. And you know what? I'm not looking it up.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Nope.
I know more about it now already than I want to. So, so she becomes this. But there's like this, there is an underlying story arc here of like how she cares for her friend and how she's jealous of her friend because she's like got a real relationship with a boy and like is like the good person. So there's like that jealousy that kind of becomes out as she gets more hungry. And the whole thing is she has to feed on human blood and human flesh. But it's that the person has to be scared or frightened for it or whatever, which is why she like torments the people she's going after. And she eventually goes after Needy's boyfriend, and that's what you heard it in the trailer there where, you know, why did it have to be him or whatever? And like it goes into this thing about how like, you know, Megan Fox was never like the Jennifer character was really never a good friend to Needy. She was like a friend of convenience. She was able to boss around and like, you know, use for things or whatever, which is so many like standard high school stories, which is where I think Diablo Cody's writing really starts to come into question because she got popular she wrote Juno and got lucky with Juno being a really well-made film with some really good performances and some great direction. So she kind of became the like Hollywood it girl, like who started writing all these things. And this was the next thing that she wrote after that.
Yeah. To be fair, what I read was she wrote this and the other one, Juno, pretty much, I mean, in timelines, it would be considered at the same time. So her use of slang, I don't think we should realistically see any difference between the two movies.
Right.
As opposed to later stuff that they've written. But yeah. This is, if there's an annual 20-year cringe award, it's going to be from some of this dialogue. They really reined it in, I think. But like the people in this movie are not the kind of people that can deliver that type of stuff. Elliot Page totally has the timing, the voice, the timbre, all of it. And what's his face there? Real life Scott Pilgrim. What's his face?
Michael Cera.
Michael Cera. Absolutely can pull off that awkward stuff. But Megan Fox and Amanda Seyfried, just it's
not right for them.
It's fucking cringy. Yeah. It really is. And it dated horribly. Slang, unless you're doing a period piece, it doesn't work. I mean, technically it's a period piece because the time period was 2009.
Right. But you know what's interesting is that, I mean, she wrote Young Adult, and that came out, I think, maybe like 3 or 4 years after this with Charlize Theron. And it actually works way better in that because the character that Charlize Theron plays is like a woman in her 30s who is still trying to like hang on to that young adult life because she's a writer of young adult books. So like the slang that's used in that comes across super cringy, but like it's supposed to come across that way.
Yeah, find a way to, you know, use the way you write, because she writes it good enough for people to enjoy it. It's not my personal taste, but if people enjoy it, great. But, you know, couch it inside of, you know, just don't make Charles Dance say some of the stuff you've written.
Right.
Right language for the right person.
Yeah. That's
you watch The Good Place, right?
Some of it. I didn't watch all of it.
You couldn't swap Jason and Chidi's lines and realistically have the show still work, is what I'm getting at.
Right. Yeah. I think with Diablo Cody, her writing style needs to play in a more, not necessarily comedic, but like a more sad fashion, if that makes sense. Like, you're not cool, you're kind of sad. Because then it comes across right. Because she did another movie with Charlize Theron that I can't think of. It
was a Flower or something.
No. Hang on, let me look it up.
Okay.
Because I know, like, young adult, I liked quite a lot. But then she did another movie with Charlotte. Yeah, Tully in 2018.
That's actually the poster I was thinking of.
Yes,
because there were stick-on things you could put on the standee for that. Yeah.
If you've never seen Tully, that's a really good one because it has Mark Duplass is in it and a couple other people, Ron Livingston and
that guy is like gives me anxiety, but to a lesser degree than Michael Shannon does, but exactly for the same reasons.
Yeah, right.
But I like both of them. I really do.
So, but like in like young adult and in Tully, the candor and dialogue of the main leads is more sad. Like, you still think you're 12 years old, but you're 40. Like,
yeah.
So
like Adam Sandler.
Yeah. No, not really like Adam Sandler, but
well, no, in a lot of his movies, that's what he is. He's a man-child.
But he's presented that way though.
Oh, okay, I got you.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So anyway, getting back to Jennifer's Body, Diablo Cody's writing in this is really bad. Like it's bad because it just does not work. Mm-hmm. So I don't know whether I know she wrote the story, but I don't know whether the screenplay. I don't think the screenplay was adapted from her writing. I think she did the screenplay too. Don't quote me on that. I don't have it in front of me, but it feels weird. All of it feels really weird. And like, I get that the band is kind of supposed to be a caricature of like every, indie rock band from that time period. Like they dropped the joke of like, well, what about that one guy in Maroon 5? Look what it did for him. And like, oh yeah, it's fucking real funny. Like, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
I think the horror elements in this though, I think that stuff works. I think Megan Fox's best stuff in this movie is when she is in like demon mode.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not a complete loss. Like I know it kind of sounds like I'm shitting all over it, but like it's not a complete loss, but it's definitely a product of its time when you watch it now. Like it's not like when you go back and watch just like My Bloody Valentine. Like that is a product of its time in the sense that you watch it and you know when it was made, but it doesn't feel out of place watching it in 2022. Watching this.
No, because coal mines barely exist now, so it's in the past.
Right. But watching this, it just all feels very like, oh, I remember that shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But I think some of the effects are kind of cool. I just wish Megan Fox didn't have to talk. And I know that sounds chauvinistic and like stuff, but like, she obviously looks great. I mean, that's why she's there. She looks great.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. She's not a good actress.
No, she's not.
Anything else?
I can't argue with that. I mean, I did going back and looking to see what was said at the time. A lot of the more thought out reviews said that it basically does Ginger Snaps, but not as good.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even think of that, but that's really a really, really good comparison.
Yeah, they didn't explore
Ginger Snaps without the
puberty. Yeah. It's the American Martyrs is what this is.
I think that's giving it too much credit. That's too good a comparison.
Oh, I thought that too good of a comparison. So what am I doing now? Am I? I thought you asked me to do something. I couldn't remember.
I don't know. I might have. Do you recommend What's Your Grade for Jennifer's Body?
I'm not gonna recommend this because I think there's a lot of things missing from it. A clear explanation of how this worked. I think that's integral for horror movies. Why is the person like this? It's supposition from our main character that spells everything out. I think that they tried to go a little too meta with the whole thing by naming the character Needy, and the other one, Jennifer's last name is Check, which I read is a placeholder name that Cody uses, and she just left it there. I don't know. It just feels this could have used at least 2 more passes.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you're going to involve demons and succubi and magic and witchcraft and the occult, don't flash to a couple of fucking books and then have a narrator explain shit to me. Because, Jesus Christ, I could generate some AI images and narrate a fucking horror movie. Show. You could tell a little if you fucking show. So no, the more Amanda is great. The boyfriend is great. Everybody's great. But it's brought down by the fact that the story isn't fleshed out in any meaningful way to give the character any motivation or heart. But you also know that Amanda's character from the very opening is a fucking monster. So there's no one to root for in this. Unlike in My Bloody Valentine, given the mood you're in, you can vote for the guy who's, collecting tolls for OSHA violations, or this movie, or the kids, because they're innocent kids and whatever. Fucking, it depends what mood you're in. Or this one, where who gives a shit? The nihilism of some horror movies around this time, where they make the bad guy so bad that he's like they're unsympathetic, but then the good guys you're supposed to be rooting for are a bunch of fucking mentally inept bro dudes, and the girls that are too scared to break up with them. Like, I'm glad that's over. But this is definitely a it's a stereotype checklist.
Yeah, for sure.
So D+.
Okay. I'm not gonna hate on it nearly as much as that, but it's definitely a film that has its issues. If you've never seen it, I can recommend maybe checking it out. Me revisiting it. Had you seen it before, or was this the first time you watched it?
No, I was not at my 20 screen theater when this came out. I was at the 6 screen up the street, and we didn't run it. And then Meghan Fox was in it, so that's like 5 strikes.
Fair enough. So if you've never seen it and you like the films from this time period, then you should check it out. There's definitely, I think, some things going on in this that I think are interesting. And I think, despite the fact that I talked a lot of shit on Meghan Fox and her acting chops, like, there are some things in this that she does very, very well. I think we can both agree that she has one of the best evil smiles.
Yeah.
Like, she's got that, like, the evil stuff that she does, I think is actually pretty fucking good. Like, and she plays a great villain. Where it falls apart for me is when she's trying to do those other things, and she's not she's not in evil mode, and she's trying to be like nice to Needy, and like they also tend to. I'd just say they also tended to, in the promotion of this, really lean into the LGBT side of this, where, and then, let's be honest, it's really not a part of the movie. They do have a scene where Amanda Seyfried and Megan Fox kiss, and they made it seem like the whole movie was fucking about that. And it's not. There's definitely some questions in their relationship, and some true feelings come out, but its biggest issue is in the writing. So despite Megan Fox not being the best actress in the world, if she's given the right things to do, she can do it, and she can do it very well, which is why I think the villainous stuff that she's allowed to do works really well. But like when she's supposed to be everyday teenage girl, it's like people don't act like this. People don't talk like this. This is not real. And where it fails the most, I agree with you 100%, is there is no information on anything. Like, Needy goes to the school library and takes out a book and like finds the spell. Like Adam Brody,
too convenient.
Yeah, and like they kind of joke when they're like, "Oh, do you like when they're gonna do the sacrifice?" They're like, "Oh, do you have the spell?" And he's like, takes out a piece of paper and he's like, "Where'd you get that?" He's like, "Oh, I printed it off of Google."
Yeah, well, that for the band, I'm like, yeah, okay, they would be that stupid and lazy. That's fine, right? Because the spell, I honestly believe did not work. Right? It couldn't have if she wasn't a virgin. So it's just coincidence that the band made it big based on the fire.
Right. But they don't.
That part's never explored.
Yeah, they don't go into it at all. Like there's none of that.
It's disappointing.
Yeah, because there's a really I fully understand why this is starting to show up on people's lists of like films that can be cult films from that time period. And let's be honest, like that list is probably pretty short from like 2005 to say 2012 genre flicks that were made in the mainstream. I mean, there's tons of good flicks that were made, outside of like the studios for sure. But like in terms of like the glut of like bad remakes and just super lazy PG-13 horror films that were from this time period, this is a hard R movie. Like, it's violent, it's bloody. And whether you think Megan Fox is a terrible actress or a horrible person, really, you should be able to overlook that with a well-made movie. And unfortunately, the writing is just so poor in this that like you can't. But not the worst. So I will say you gave it a D+. I'm going to give it high. I'm going to give it a straight C, because I think thinking back on it, there are definitely things that I liked about it. But everything is just so simple that I want more from virtually everything in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So there you have it, a C and a D+. Jennifer's Body. I do like going back and looking at films from this time period now that we're 10 plus years past that, because it's easy for us to watch a film from the 70s or like the late 60s or whatever and like be like, I don't really remember this world.
Right.
We may have been alive in the mid to late 70s, but like I don't remember what life was like for a teenager in 1977 because I was just born. Or like for you, like a couple years before that, like, you don't remember 1975. Like,
no,
you don't know what it was like to be a hard-nosed detective in Italy in 1975.
Nope.
But I remember what it was like to be a teenager in the 90s and then like a young adult in the early 2000s. So like I revisiting these films from this time period, I'm like, no, I remember what life was like in 2009. And
also you remember working with a lot of other people, and I don't remember anybody talking like this. This is like their own invention. Right. This slang language that they use. No one talks like that.
Well, the thing too was like you and I worked together at Sam Goody for a number of years. You worked in movie theaters. So like we worked, and I worked at like Urban Outfitters and like Nordstrom. So I worked with kids, like, and like, so I don't remember people talking like this either. And I worked with kids that were like 17, 18, 19, years old. So I think it's just weird. It just lives in a very, very weird place.
Yeah. It's future cringe. Because it's almost there right now.
Right. So there's Jennifer's Body. All right. Joe Harvey here. It looks like he has a very short voicemail this week. So let's.
Well, hello, Bill. Hello, Chris. And hello, OTC Nation. It's your boy Joe here. And, this week, Bill finally took me back to Long Island. He made me watch the Amityville Horror 2005 remake. The only thing I remember about the Amityville remake is that even way back in 2005, most people had already had an absolute ass full of remakes. Well, that's not true. I also remember that the marketing material for this, and as I alluded to last week, Ryan Reynolds' abdominal muscles should have been given co-starring credits. Like, I hope they got their own separate SAG card from the rest of his body for this role. At its core, this is supposed to be a film about a pretty regular family finding themselves in irregular circumstances. And I'm not talking about the mortgage. But here you've got a man who looks like he spent the last 6 months doing nothing but working with a personal trainer and a dietitian. Like, I'm pretty sure nowhere in the Amityville lore was George Lutz a fitness model. I know people who look like he looks in this movie, and I can assure you that this is the most unrealistic thing in a movie about a house possessed by demons. Mm-hmm. Because he'd have to stop chasing people around with an axe like every 15 minutes to eat like 2 full chicken breasts and like half a pound of broccoli and do 50 push-ups to maintain this look.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not normally one to give a trigger warning, but if any dude listening to the sound of my voice has body image issues, avoid this movie like Ryan Reynolds avoided bread before filming. Like, I just spent a fair amount of time dunking on Ryan Reynolds. But to be fair, as Chris pointed out last week, this was a weird time in his career where, like, his star was definitely on the rise. It's just that nobody was sure what kind of star he was going to be.
Yeah.
He was probably still having flashbacks from being on that kids' soap opera, 15, that one on Nickelodeon. You remember that shit?
Nope.
It was the most melodramatic, overwrought soap opera that you'd ever seen, done in kind of like the style of Peanuts, because you never saw an adult.
Oh.
But, you know,
Okay.
there's probably a boring movie to watch, so here we go. I'd always heard that this movie was boring and bad, but that opinion was probably coming from people who had not spent the last 8 weeks of their lives watching the entire Amityville oeuvre, so they can get fucked, because this movie isn't bad so far. Like, you know how I've kept having to bemoan how nothing happens for the first hour of all of these movies? Well, the '05 Amityville respects my time, because they took 20 minutes to plant the first seed of something actually happening, so this is like automatically the best Amityville movie. Not just because the lady that plays Kathy Lutz is pretty fucking attractive. Like, even if Ryan Reynolds is wearing so much eyeliner that he looks like he should be playing bass in a My Chemical Romance cover band instead of a 1970s stepdad who bought way more house than he can afford. They're also giving us one thing that the OG movie never did: actual visual representations of the evil living in the house. Like, I fully get that they were going for the invisible threat. How can you fight what you can't see? It's just a force, like a force of nature, and everything is suggested and whatnot in the first film, and maybe that worked in 1978, but it sure as fuck doesn't work now. Like, we're jaded. We grew up watching MTV and like a 3rd-generation VHS copy of Faces of Death. I assure you, people of my generation, our generation, are not scared of invisible forces. But they were smart enough to give us both here. We get George Lutz being slowly driven mad by the forces of the house and some unseen or alluded to things, but we also get a small girl with rotting skin and a noose around her neck totally cock-blocking George and Kathy as they try to move large patches of hair to the side so that they can have mid-1970s sex. And little Chloe Moretz, she plays the little daughter. She's great here. She talks to the girl in the closet, Jody, who was only like spoken of in the OG movie. But here we see her over her mom's shoulder, giving her the shush Iggy because she's stooging off the gimmick. Sorry about that. In my mind, Jody has innate knowledge of pro wrestling speak. Another thing they did better here than the original is they actually give us a timeline of events. Like every so often we'll get a day 3, day 7, day 15. Like, one thing that got or gets a little glossed over here is that George and Kathy Lutz only lived in that house for 28 days before pressing the fuck it button. Although in real life, I'm sure it was just because they saw their first house payment and went, ah, shit, what do we do? I know, demons.
Yeah.
And while I fully understand that I'm watching a movie about a house full of demons and shit, there's something so unrealistic here that it's kind of taken me out of the movie. George Lutz owns his own construction business in Long Island. And at no point do they even insinuate a connection to the mob. Now, hear me out. I won't claim to know everything about the culture of the greater New York area. But I do know that if you own a construction company in that region, you probably know a guy. You know, you finger quotes, know a guy. Mm-hmm. Especially considering that this takes place in the mid-1970s, like the height of mob activity. I don't think you were even allowed to own a business in the 1970s in that area without being the cousin of a guy who can get things done, quote, quote, quote. It feels redundant to talk about the plot here because unlike a lot of other remakes from this time, this is actually a remake of the original film. Like all the major plot points are here. The original timeline is intact. The only changes are minor and meant to appeal to a modern audience. They move in, weird stuff starts, George goes a little bit around the bend, and they bail faster than I do when I'm talking to someone and they say, oh man, you should really look up what Dr. Jordan Peterson said about that. Honestly, I'd rather deal with the house. Also, in the climax, this is great. George had his shotgun taken from him by Kathy, and he begs her, kill me before I kill you. And she says, nobody's dying here tonight. And she knocks him cold the fuck out by cracking him in the temple with the butt end of a shotgun.
So he's dead.
Listen, madam. Nobody is dying here tonight is maybe the richest thing you could fucking say right before you hit him in a way that at best has like a 50-50 chance of killing him. Grape job, lady. Gold star for you. Here's the thing. The good. This is absolutely the best Amityville movie. I don't give a fuck what you've heard from your buddies. This is absolutely the best Amityville movie.
All right.
That might be my headspace of I've been watching this bullshit for 2 months now talking, but it was paced well and it had a well-rounded sense of horror, both psychological and physical. And even though Ryan Reynolds is wearing so much eyeliner that he looks like a buff Brendan Urie, he owns this movie. Also, this is the first film that actually tells you how the house got possessed in the first fucking place. I won't tell you about it because, like, of all the movies, this is probably, honestly, the most worth watching. I promise. The bad. It's still an Amityville horror movie, and at the end of the day, it's just kind of not my jam. This one was the most my jam, but it's just kind of not my jam. This whole, like, The Conjuring, all this, like, spooky bullshit, you know, it's just not my jam. Also, if you're going to buy a house that you couldn't afford, even if your construction company was successful, why would you choose a drafty 300-year-old house in New England? The heating bill alone for this bitch would drive one to go insane. Like, yeah, these demons are super scary, babe. Did you see the January heating bill?
Oh, man, I just got mine.
I'm going to go a little bit long today. I hope that's okay. There's one more thing. One, in my ADHD-ness, I neglected to wish you boys a happy 15th show-iversary. Being a part of this show for the last 6 years has been truly, honestly, no bullshit, one of the great joys in my life and something I look forward to every week, good or bad movie. And you two cannot be praised enough for what you do. So thank you. That's it. Just
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much
thank you
for
very
what you
much.
do.
Yeah.
I'll be back next week with Amityville Karen, just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
Until then, be good, everyone.
Do you think Amityville Karen is part of the canon?
It better be. That's all I have to say.
Ridiculous, man. Thank you very much, Joe. Having you be part of the show is obviously something we very much enjoy. I like, as much as I enjoy torturing you, which I seem to do on a regular basis, I wouldn't change it, though. I love having it. So I'll probably take it easy on him with the next series. I haven't decided what it'll be yet, but we'll see. All right, here we go. Reverend Scott returns again this week for another one. No, what is he? The big one, as he likes to say, the big one, after the big one.
This is my show now. And I get to do whatever I want. And I think I should be the new host.
That's fine. I don't fucking care what this guy thinks of anything because he just eats chips on his show. Fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
With Reverend
And I
Scott.
don't mean with your boy, Reverend Scott.
Oh.
Well, this is awkward.
Most of the time, I know that I'm misspelling things. I just don't care.
I think it's funny.
Hi there, Bill and Chris. This is Reverend Scott. Now you say hi.
Hi, Bill.
Boy, oh boy, was last week a doozy of a show, especially my segment.
I just, was so bored.
Oh, come on. If you've never listened to Holy Shit before, episode 780 is the one you need to listen to before you die.
Why? Because it makes you want to die? Because it's so boring?
Bill, I told you how long it took me to make that segment. You should feel bad for saying that.
I do feel bad, and I do understand that.
Yeah.
But, chill the fuck out.
You literally got to hear everything that goes into making Holy Shit, especially for a 15-year celebration. A lot of time, sweat, blood, and tears go into crafting something so very important.
15 years is a long time. It is a long time for something that essentially is a hobby.
Yeah, it's no biggie. But I did learn a lot from listening to that 15-year episode.
Crazy that we've been through a pandemic. It's just we bought 2 houses, had a child, got a bark.
Yep.
It's crazy.
I already knew all that. I'm talking about all the other stuff, which I've conveniently placed into an easy-to-digest top 6 list of things that I learned from the 15-year anniversary show last week.
It's time for the top 6 list.
Gonna get slammed, baby.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let the barrel of a gun. It's time for the top 6 list.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Haven't heard that one in a while. You know, I could have done a top 10 also, but this is OTC, so you get a top 6 list.
That's fucking good enough for me.
I don't even know. No, I can't.
In at number 6, Bill is still upset that Raven Shadow, a member of a podcast that Bill doesn't listen to, doesn't listen to Bill's podcast.
I am convinced that Raven Shadow has never listened to an episode of OTC in its entirety, even if he was on the episode.
You mean in real time listening to the episode he's on as it's recorded?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely been times where he just gets up and leaves, and we're like, "Where's Raven Shadow?" And, oh, he probably went out to smoke a cigarette, and then comes back 20 minutes later and just sits back down like nobody knew that he was gone.
But we knew. Then at number 5, Bill goes on tangents about things he loves and likes to thank Chris for allowing him to pause and indulge in those loves on the show.
Extra big thanks for giving me a platform to express my love for goat fucking.
You're welcome, everybody.
Gotta go now. There's a goat calling my name, and I don't want to leave it waiting.
Beautiful.
Goat fucking.
Number 4, Bill was wrong about Raven Shadow.
I want to give Mr. Chris some love. He does a thing that I get in trouble for, but I appreciate it when he does it. He will also mention actors by their more famous roles. Like they were doing Ravenous last week, and he kept calling Robert Carlyle, calling him Rumpelstiltskin because he played him in the show that copied the Fables comic. Once Upon a Time, he played Rumpelstiltskin. So, Chris, I get yelled at by Wolfie and Aries for that, but I smile when you do it.
Well, thank you.
I also enjoy the conversation about the fast food joints that you've been doing the last couple of weeks. I enjoyed that. And listen, Reverend Scott is still killer.
Hang on. I just realized Raven Shadow listened to some episodes.
Mind-numbing. In at number 3, Jack Bennett owes a lot to me specifically.
You drive my desire to get somewhere in this topsy-turvy business.
And always skips to the good parts of the show.
I just listened to all of the old holy shits with Reverend Scott.
And Jack is also legally changing his name in real life and in the credits of all future professional work to honor OTC.
Let's keep hanging out outside the cinema and talking about movies. Peace and love to Reverend Scott as well. Slick Jackie B out.
Thank you, Slick Jackie B.
Slick Jackie B.
Oh, God.
And coming in on the big number 2, Mr. Chris has no idea what movies were covered on the show.
I have a list. I have like 60 things on here.
None of the movies were actually covered on the show, but the list is there.
I made a list, and there's like 60 of them on here.
50% chance they were covered on the show.
I'm not 100% sure that Chris even knew where he was last week, considering that he tried to kick Bill out of his own studio.
Get the fuck out of my house.
Chris doesn't let it bother him, though.
And if you know me, I hate myself right now.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Chris. You've probably already forgotten what my number 2 was.
What?
And in at number 1, Monster Zero has something I like to call OTC selective amnesia.
There's a long-running, it's not even a joke, it's a reality about MZ not knowing who Reverend Scott is after meeting him like 5 or 6 different times.
And it's not just me.
They laid the egg for us, and we decided to hatch it. And if it weren't for Bill, if it weren't for Kyle, I mean, honestly, I feel that way.
I don't know what Kyle has to do with it.
Kyle's not on Outside the Cinema.
And it's not just me and Chris.
And let me just say that making anything for 15 years is definitely a tribute to you people. Bill, Kyle, Bill, Chris, Reverend Scott, whoever you are.
Bill doesn't take it personally, though.
What a fucking weirdo.
Indeed. And I did learn other things that weren't on my list. Like that Bill had some strong opinions about my segment.
It's fucking batshit. It's real weird.
No idea where you're coming from there.
Hey, I'm looking for nudity.
What are you asking, Bill?
Why is there no nudity?
Because it's an audio-only segment?
It's batshit crazy, and it doesn't make a lick of sense, but also at the same time, it makes perfect sense.
I don't know if that made sense.
It doesn't.
That's an understatement. But at the end of the day, Bill and Chris learned that they loved the show.
Yeah, for sure.
At least until Bill ends the show and blames it all on Chris.
If I fuck this up, it's going away, and then what'll I do?
Right.
So I better go before Chris fucks this all up for everybody.
God damn it.
But until then, peace and love, guys. Outside the cinema, Bill and Chris are still doing it after 15 years.
It's still fun to do. I still like doing it. I still like to do it with you. So like, it's the type of thing where like,
shit, that's gonna come back to us.
I like to do it with you.
Me too.
Yeah. What is okay is bringing this 2-hour and 15-minute episode to an end.
Yeah.
Damn it. Anyway, thank you for listening to the show this week. Thank you for the 15-year wishes. Yeah, patreon.com/outside the cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do that.
Do that. Send us your suggestions. Sign up if you're not already a member. Help support independent podcasting. We'll be back next week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.